Hey guys, welcome back to OrmsTV. Today we have for you the two brand new offerings in Sony's APS-C lineup, the Sony A6600 and the Sony A6100. And we're just going to have a quick look at these two cameras. Now, before we dive into that, please don't forget to like and subscribe down below and smash that bell icon so you get notified of all our latest content. Let's dive in. Okay guys, so let's kick things off with a quick specs rundown, and just right off the bat, both of these cameras, the A6600 and the A6100, are very similar to each other. Both of them use the exact same Sony APS-C size 24 megapixel sensor. They both run Sony's latest BIONZ X processing chip, so giving you beautiful speed and processing power out of it. Both of them use a 425-point hybrid autofocus system, giving you about 84% coverage on your sensor. Also, both of these units shoot 4K video at 30 frames per second, which is quite excellent in this bracket. And both units will run at 11 frames per second maximum burst speed if you're just holding the shutter down and letting it rip. Now, there are some points where they differ, so let's discuss that real quick. The A6600 runs an ISO range from 50 up to 102,400, while the 6100 limits you to 100 to 51,200, which isn't that big a difference. I mean, we're basically talking about a one-stop difference there in the ISO range. The biggest difference, however, between the two units is that your 6600 has IBIS, in-body stabilization. So it's a 5-axis system, works very well, and that will obviously be quite a benefit, especially if you're shooting video on the unit. And that's kind of where the 6600 is going to outshine the 6100 a little bit. Talking about the video differences, another key difference here is that the 6600 will allow you to shoot in Sony's S-Log, while the 6100 does not. Now, both allow you to shoot HDR and hybrid log gamma, but specifically if you want that S-Log, that really flat tones and maximum grading potential, 6600 is going to be the one to go for. Another difference on these two is that your 6600 has both a mic input and a headphone jack, while the 6100 only has the mic input. And then one thing that is going to be a big point for a lot of users out there is that the 6600 uses Sony's all-new Z series battery, which, if we're honest, is a bit of a game changer. Gives you about double the amount of shooting time, exposures that you can get out of the 6600 compared to the 6100. The 6100 still uses the FW50 battery spec, and as we all know, that is a little bit of a limitation. So you're only going to get around 400 exposures out of that, while on something like the 6600, Sony has rated it at about 880 exposures, which is pretty decent for a camera in this bracket. So let's talk about the biggest inclusion in these two cameras. And yes, Sony put their best feature into the A6100, which is arguably at the moment the entry-level mirrorless camera that you can buy from Sony. And it's in the 6600 as well, but we kind of expected that. They have included their full real-time tracking autofocus with eye track and animal track and all of that good stuff in there. And if we're honest, it is flat out the best autofocus system that money can buy right now. It locks onto an eye like it's nobody's business, keeps tracking your subject, by far the best out of any camera system on the market right now. And you can get it in the 6100, which for me is an absolute game changer. Nothing else in specifically this price bracket gives you anything close to what this can do. Couple that with what you'll see right now, which is this very nifty idea that they did with the rear screen, which is including a second hinge, and that allows you to prop the screen up. And that obviously appeals to all the aspiring vloggers out there, which is kind of perfect. And with this hinge system, they've managed to get it past the viewfinder, which is great. Talking about the viewfinder, that's one thing where these two cameras do differ. The 6100 has a relatively basic LCD viewfinder in it, still perfectly usable, no issues, but your 6600 runs a full OLED viewfinder, which is rather magnificent. So before we go shoot, I just quickly want to mention that we have two brand new lenses here as well. So we have a 16-55 f2.8, and then we have this 70-300. It's an f4.5 to 6.3, and both of these lenses are brand spanking new, and they are super light, super compact, and we're loving them, and you're going to see them in action. So let's go try these cameras out with these two new lenses. Let's go have a look. Okay, so that was our very quick look at the Sony A6600 and 6100. And while they are very similar in many, many ways, there are some really key differences between these two cameras. And that really comes to the fore when you use them. Now, your 6600 with the IBIS in, with the bigger battery, all of that really is the camera that you would want to go for if you're going to focus more on video shooting. Not that stills photographers wouldn't benefit from the IBIS. I just personally feel that it's a little bit more critical if you are going to be shooting video. The 6100 would probably be a better solution if you are looking to get into shooting some stills, focusing on that, and looking for a really good camera to kick off and be in an ecosystem that really is at the forefront of photography at the moment. The A6600 is very much a worthy upgrade to the A6500, and it has some amazing features packed into it. But the true star of this has to be the 6100. And yes, the build quality isn't quite where it is on something like the 6600 or the earlier released 6400. But the amount of features that is packed into that little camera, if you look at the price point where it comes in at, you know, you get the 4K video in there, you get Sony's magnificent real-time tracking autofocus with continuous eye tracking, and that is some groundbreaking technology. You get the mic input for video recording, you get the flip-up screen for vlogging and anything like that. You get 11 frames per second burst. It really is an amazing all-round camera. Yes, it doesn't have IBIS, and yes, it doesn't have the Z series battery, both of which are very nice upgrades to have. But if you look at the price point where the A6100 comes in at, sitting arguably below something like a Fuji X-T3 on a price bracket, that is a lot of camera for the money. And if you step up from there and you look at the 6600, yes, it is quite a bit more expensive, but you do also get a lot more camera. You get the IBIS, you get the larger battery, you get a bigger grip that is easier to hold and a little bit better ergonomics, and you get better weather sealing and a better constructed camera. All in all though, between either of these, you're not going to go wrong, irrespective of which one you take. Both of these are magnificent entries into the APS-C sort of entry-level mirrorless lineup, and Sony did a cracking job. Well guys, thank you very much for joining us for that quick look at the Sony A6600 and 6100. As always, if there's anything that we missed or anything that you would like to know, please don't forget to comment down below. We love hearing from you guys, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.